Coming off the gold medal in 2025, Team USA will look to repeat at this year's Hlinka Gretzky Cup, and with a new batch of faces, we will see who the next player up is for this American team, not just for this tournament, but for the future IIHF ones as well. Gold medal, let's go! Back on the fly, this here recapping, predicting the World Junior Championship, U18 Women's World, the Men's World Championship, Women's World Championship, the U18 Men's World Championship. What is happening? It is by far one of the dumbest things I have ever seen. Prepare to die. Figured it was better safe than sorry. Scores! Nathan McKinnon! Scores for Canada. Your home for international hockey. This is On the Fly. Hello everyone and welcome back to On the Fly, your home for international hockey. Today we're going to be previewing the team representing the USA at the 2026 Hlinka Gretzky Cup held in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. So hop into it today, starting with a little bit of the history of this American team at this Hlinka Gretzky Cup tournament. And you think about it over the last few years, we'll date it back to 2023, where they did end up taking home the bronze medal. 2024, they fell just short of the medal, finishing in 4th place. And then in 2025, the gold medal run for them, where they won their second gold medal at this tournament, their last one coming in 2003. And for the American team last year, you think about their road to get there through those playoff rounds, a big win in shootout fashion over the Canadian team. Then, of course, they go on to win that gold medal the next day. And you think about it for this American squad this year, what they're going to be looking at. It's ultimately going to come down to A, can they put the puck in the back of the net? And B, can they play well enough defensively? And it seems obvious, right? You think about it, any hockey team, if you can play well offensively, they'll do fine. They play well defensively, they will be just fine as well. But for this American squad this year, they have a lot of talent, and it's not necessarily the refined talent we see at later tournaments. U18s is one that we've seen over the last few years for the Americans kind of pick up a little bit. But this isn't the same American team that we see in May of the following year versus August, where we have a bunch of players who haven't exactly played in a little bit of time. And so for this American team, starting for them is going to be important. As far as expectations go, I do think that this American team should be considered amongst the favorite for this tournament. And frankly, they should be up there at least in the top 4, if not higher, depending on where you want to seed them. I could see them as high as 2nd entering this tournament. I could see them as low as probably 4th entering this tournament. But for this American team, they have the pieces in place, and now it's going to be about executing. They're trying to defend their gold medal from last year. Is it their best team they've sent to this tournament? No, but at the same time, this is the kind of roster that if you're the Americans, you are confident with, that could potentially pull off an upset along the way and find themselves in that top spot. We'll introduce you now to that team, and we'll start here with the forwards with Ty Bergeron, Gavin Burkar, Gunnar Conboy, Joey Cullen, Brooks Demars, Gary DiConzulo, Colin Grubb, Luke Patella, Nash Rode, Ryland Rooney, Nolan Schneider, Ethan Sung, and Michael Tang. Then over to the defense with Rylan Hanson, Cameron Minella, Charlie Mineman, Jake Prunty, Trevor Shorter, Beck Dorson, Becker Wenkus. Then to the goaltending with Mason Corville, Caden Tate, and Brandon Wright. And so you look at this team for the US this year, and there's a lot of pieces on this roster that have some depth potential, right? And it's not exactly this kind of blow it away talented team that we've seen in years past for the Americans, but they do have some very good players. And we'll start here with some of their forwards that you have to keep an eye on as this tournament goes along. The first one we'll talk about is an international guy we saw at the under 17 World Hockey Challenge, which is Ty Bergeron. He didn't exactly have his best of tournaments there, but still a guy who we've seen transition with Muskegon over the last little bit in the USHL. He's a guy that I think will definitely take on a bit of a bigger role and a much more upsized role than we've seen in years past on this Hlinka Gretzky roster. We'll see whether he can pick up the pace. If he can play at a high enough level, you could see him into that kind of middle top 6 type of role. But for Bergeron, he's a decent player, 2 points over 4 games at that U17 World Hockey Challenge, and we'll see this year whether he can pick up those points and start to find his best game. He's a guy that the team will trust in their own end, and ultimately, if he can log enough minutes for this U.S. team, could become an X-factor type of player. The next guy we'll talk about is Gunnar Conboy, and for Conboy, he's the type of player who you can kind of think of as more of that power forward. He's a 6'4" guy, he has decent skating and a very strong shot. And those are the kind of tools you need at that size to be a bit of a nuisance around the net. You think about the way he plays, he's going to be trying to crash the net, get into those danger areas. And for a guy like Conboy, if he can get into those danger areas, if he can find himself one-on-one with defenders, that's where he's going to be very successful at this tournament. Now we'll see for a guy like Conboy whether he can find his best game. Part of the beauty of it is that it is August, and you don't necessarily have your best stuff when you haven't played a game in quite a while. And so for a guy like Conboy, yes, it's going to be a bit of a feeling out process, but he's going to be a very good player for this team. We will see whether or not he can find his game. If he can, he will be a lights out player for this American roster, a guy you will notice out there, but we will see for him whether or not he can end up kind of finding his best game. Then the next guy we'll talk about is Joey Cullen. You might know of his brothers. Wyatt Cullen is probably the more well-known one. We're currently watching him play at the World Junior Summer Showcase. As well, he has another brother of Brooks Cullen, who's another kind of prospect out in the systems right now. But you look at it for Joey Cullen, he is widely considered to be the best of the Cullen brothers. And you think about Wyatt Cullen, who just went 10th overall to the Nashville Predators. Now it's Joey Cullen's turn, and he's not going to be in next year's draft. He'll be in the draft afterwards, but he's already projected to be a top 3 pick at that draft. He's a player who's going to be a nuisance to play against. He's able to get into those tight areas. He's a high IQ hockey player, able to skate as well. He has good playmaking ability, a lot of things that this U.S. team is going to need if they are going to be successful. Now, important to note that he is an underager, and for a team like the U.S., you don't see a lot of underagers at this tournament. And for a guy like Cullen, he's going to have to take on a bigger role than what he's used to. He's going to have to play at a higher pace than what he's used to. And so we'll see what that transitions period's like for him early on. I think we are going to see him definitely start to pick up his game as it goes along at this tournament. I think he will be a bit of a slow starter. I don't think we're going to see him at his best right off the top. But as he continues to find his game, keep an eye on Cullen, because if he can find his best, this U.S. team is going to be laughing throughout this tournament. The potential for an X-factor type of guy, where if he's on his game, this U.S. team could potentially go very far. Brooks Demers is another one for this American team. Another kind of power forward type, 6'2", another strong shot type of guy. He's going to use his size, a physical type player who is going to get into those areas where if he can find his best game, if he's able to get into those areas, look out, because he's going to be a goal scorer type of guy. And for the U.S. team, who is able to put the puck in the back of the net a lot, you're going to look for a guy like Demers to really lead this charge for the American team. Will be a guy to definitely keep your eyes on throughout. And then we'll shift over to the defense, and we'll start here with Cameron Minella. And for Minella, he's the kind of player that isn't exactly that highlight reel, flashy type of defenseman. In fact, you probably won't even notice him while you're watching, and that just speaks to his game as a defender. He's not a flashy guy. He does what he needs to do, and he's not noticeable as far as getting pulled out of position, or on the offensive side as well, where you're not going to see him really jump that rush too much. Every so often he'll get his opportunity and he'll try and get his own points, but ultimately for Minella, where you'll see his best game is on the defensive side. More of that stay-at-home type of defender. He will be a very important part for this U.S. team. Expect him to log a lot of minutes. We've seen him play quite a bit over with the Halifax Mooseheads, and so we'll see for him whether or not he can continue that into this tournament for the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. And if he can, this U.S. team will also be in a very good spot. And then the last player we'll talk about is a player you will absolutely notice, which is Trevor Shorter, which For shorter, he is not short. He is 6'7", and he is a force out there, to put it bluntly. 169 penalty minutes over 41 games last year, and he's going to be a physical presence, right? And for a guy like Shorter, we're going to see how that transitions in. Discipline is going to come into question, absolutely. But if he can find his best, if he's able to keep up pace-wise, he could become a very solid defender for this team. Now, with that said, he's a bigger guy. He's 6'7", which means the skating ability might not be there, and especially when you think about who else is going to be at this tournament, the pace of play will be something to keep monitor with him if he can keep with that pace, but he's 6'7". He'll be okay. Then to the goaltending, where we'll have a bit of a tandem, I believe, to start, which will be between Mason Corville and Caden Tate. I think the edge does go to Corville, but there's a very good kind of argument to be made for Tate to get that starting role. For Corville, he's a 6'1" goaltender. He played 18 games in the OHL with the Flint Firebirds this year. For Tate, he's 6'4", so a little bit more of that size factor. Only 2 games played in the OHL this year. And so for me, I just look at the performance, and yes, Tate's games that he played in were much better than what we saw from Corville, but the sheer number of games we saw Corville play, the consistency factor alone, I think is what's going to ultimately give him that starting spot. But if you can catch a hot goaltender, don't be surprised to see the U.S. rotate through all 3, especially early in this tournament where the games aren't necessarily as important. Yes, you're in a 4-team group, 2 teams do go ahead to the next round, and so you need to basically win 2 of those games. I just do think that for the U.S., you look at their offensive side, you look at their defensemen as well. If they can play well, and as we said off the top, they play well offensively, if they play well defensively, the goaltending situation will end up working itself out. And so I'm not too concerned with the fact that the U.S. doesn't really have that set starting goaltender going in, but I do think it will end up being a kind of a tandem battle between Corville and Tate in the end there for this American team. But those are your players to keep an eye on here for this American roster, and we will see who ends up taking that big step for this team as they try and look ahead to not just this term, but as well the IIHF Men's Under-18 World Championships later on this year or later on next year. And then, of course, the World Junior Feeder Program, which we'll see with the NTDP, who will also be starting to collect some of these players as time does go along. We'll shift over now to their schedule for this American team. They will start this tournament on August the 3rd at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. They will play then against the Czechs. August the 4th, they will take on Finland at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern. And then the late game, the last game of their preliminary round will be against Germany at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Then we will see the U.S. go likely into the playoff rounds, assuming they do make those top 2 spots. A reminder how it works is it will be A1 versus B2, A2 versus B1. In the semifinal round, there will be no quarterfinals for this tournament, so semifinals will be held on August the 7th, and then the bronze medal game for the loser of that semifinal, August the 8th at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern, and then the gold medal on August the 8th at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. As far as the key games for this U.S. team do go, you look at their group, right? And right now, it's starting to look a little bit like it's going to be a 3-team dogfight for that first and second spot. We're going to see the Czechs, who are without Mihalik, who is one of their top defensemen, and a guy we were expecting to play a very big role for this Czech team at this Hlinka Gretzky Cup. They're without him due to injury, and so because of that, the Czech team is going to be in a little bit more of a spot of hurt. The Germans, I don't see being all that competitive. And then the Finns, who are always a competitive team, especially at this tournament. I would expect them to be a kind of a ringer type team at this year's Hlinka Gretzky Cup to kind of sneak their way through and potentially win it all. And for a team like the Finns, they are a very positionally sound team. They're a team who plays together quite a bit. And so we'll see for them whether or not they do end up continuing to play well. But you look at this schedule for them, their 2 most important games are their first 2 games. We'll see them play against the Czechs on the opening night. this one is a must-win for them. If they lose against the Czechs, it sets up 2 final must-win games for them after. And so as much as, yes, it's not technically a must-win, you really need to win this game for if you are the U.S., because you don't want to go into a must-win against the Finns, and you really don't want to go into a must-win against the German team. And so they'll open up against the Czechs, which should be a battling type of game. I do think the U.S. still walks out ahead at the end of this, but part of the beauty is that these kids are young, and youngness breeds immaturity, immaturity breeds recklessness, recklessness breeds mistakes. And when you look at the U.S. team, the teams they're going to play against, they're all very mature teams against teams like the Czechs and teams like the Finns, who are going to burn you if you end up making mistakes. Opening game against the Czechs will be an important one. If you win that, the game against the Finns becomes a little bit less important. Still important. You never want to come second in your group, have to play the top seed on the other side, which will likely be Canada. And so for the U.S., then you go up against the Finns, kind of a must-win, kind of not. We'll see if they can pull through with the victory. And then the last game against Germany, I don't think they'll have too much of a problem against the German team, but part of the beauty is you really do never know. You think about it. For the Germans, who were just relegated from the top division of the Under-18 Men's World Championship, they were replaced by Belarus, as Belarus was reinstated at the Under-18 level, but it also meant that Switzerland, who earned their promotion at the Division 1A level, ended up getting that promotion annulled. And so we will see both Switzerland and Germany at this tournament, as well as at the Division 1A Men's Under-18 World Championships. And so for Germany, this is the start of their campaign to get themselves back promoted to that top division. Whether or not Russia ends up coming back for the year following, so the 2028 Men's Under-18s, still remains to be seen, potentially snubbing yet another promotion bid for whichever team pops up out of the Division 1A level. But for Germany, they can't control that. All they can control is this tournament, and ultimately their tournament, which will be coming up later on in 2027. And so we'll see what this tournament, the Hlinka Gretzky, kind of shows forward into the future. But for the U.S., it's a must-win game for them here as well. You never want to lose games against weaker opponents. And for the Germans, this is their opportunity here to kind of kickstart their season onward. Then the semifinals, where you can expect this team for the U.S. to probably play either Canada, Sweden, or Switzerland. I would expect it to be either the Swedes or Canada. The Swiss have a very underrated roster this year. They have a lot of star talent. The issue is that their depth is lacking. And so if they can find some of those depth pieces on their roster, they will be okay. But I don't see it. And we just did our preview video for Team Canada, so you can go check that out in the playlist, in the link in the description below. But you're probably not beating Canada this year with this American team. I've been proved wrong in the past. We were proved wrong last year. But it's ultimately going to come down to how well they can play. The semifinals on August the 7th, and then the gold and bronze medal games, where you're likely playing any one of those 3 teams on the other group, or potentially the Czechs or the Finns in your own group for either of those bronze or gold medal game. But as far as expectation goes for the U.S., there's no reason why they can't make it all the way to the gold medal this year. Do I think they'll get past Canada? Probably not, but it will definitely be one that they can pull off an upset in and find themselves in that top spot defending their gold medal at the end of this tournament. But for the U.S. this year, trying to defend their gold medal after winning last year, and with the team they have this year, there is the potential for it, but they are going to need a few pucks to bounce their way and just maybe pull off an upset against the big bad hosts in Canada. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. If you'd like to drop a like, if you really like to consider subscribing, tell all your friends and comment down below your thoughts on Team USA at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. Until next time, see you.